Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to learn a very interesting stories from the writer. And before we do that, I would like to mention some of the great writers that we have. Writer, te hian ro pui tak takin chilan ziak china movie te pon chang china. Ten khat writer chu van theng reng chan chin te Star Wars te an ziaka. A chen chuan in tui lampang tui chung submarine te ani lo pon alien te tin hey ghost story te pokan ne ya. Ikan chi shang writer te khanan ron ziaka a chen chu futuristic ten ziaka ni khovela thil om dan tur an ngai ruat dan te khan ron ziaka zol nei te pon anga chan chu thil kha an ron she the ni voina kan zir tur hi Jules Verne ji ania Jules Verne chan chini lo soi masaila Jules Verne chu sang khat zariat somni pariata pianga tin French novelist ania ama hi science fiction aziak na sa tin pom te aziaka lekhabu hi somriat paruklai aziaka ne chu novel ania in Asia lar chen khatte chu Journey to the Center of the Earth 1864 there From Earth to Moon 1865 20,000 League Under the Sea 1869 Around the World in 80 Days 1872 te aziaka tin ma hi a hunlai hen Eiffel Tower to ama kha asiana hunin han chut me ila Eiffel Tower chu khovela tower sang ber asoi ani china 1930 malama khan tower kan ti chuan thil sang tak insang tak sakte be in chip zoom te po tower ania in hei airtel tower te an siama ikhan structure mo building mo sang tak siam khani meya tower chu chung chu alo mupha Eiffel Tower kha French ina an chuan tin French Revolution kha alo mangto French Revolution chu ngainom mai lo chiar to emo in lo wai thla to French khanin an mani an lal an monarchy khan pai thlan lal ro rel na kha poisa te he to ko wangin text te alana sal to kan pai thla democracy an lo neya an boy huta an thata an lal le athural puite kha an lal pon chwak thaka ramro rel na thar andina Jules Verne hian electric submarine te po kha ziak azzi atang kum khatna khan aron siam chhuak ta rengani tin chulawa hei skyscrapers elevators cars electric cars te train electric city light te po hi alo ziak to internet lampang kai noi te po hi alo ziak vek to ni chu amak zia chu keini mizorama khati hunlai khanin visionary kha sangkhat zariat somkwa pakhata anron thleng chawa tin sangkhat zariat somkwa palia anron thleng lea khang lai khan missionary ma de in khovel fan chwa dan te kha lo ziak to chuti lai chon rap ina kan la oma kan ram khatlang rama tuite po mawa te kan la choya kan pi pu te khan la choya fin da kha ain thau don hle mai ti kha kan soitel duwa tin motor engine te khan lo mu chhuak to tin steam engine pon mu chhuak to ni khovela khan. And now we'll go to the book Coursebook lesson number 7 page number 105. You better look into your books. We're going to learn the day of the American journalist 2889. Tin Jules Verne an ale khabuzia hi kumsang khat zare somret pakwa hian kumsang khat nu kumsang ni zare somret pakwa khover omdan tur kha alo predict ani chu ama hi futuristic kan ti to kha chuan engi mo zat kha tunan lo thleng dika chung te chu amak ema intinge lo ngai to chhuan thiam jok nangni khan an ngai to ve don ta ula tuna changa kumsang khata khovel omdan tur kha angai to chhuwa thiam dan puin shalo mai te chu phones te computer te om to tuna kan man me ki azia tir khan alo chhut lok to alo hisab lok to alo vision alo nei to ni chu ti chuan abu kha lo enila ngun takin lo ngai thaula angai nom lu to ka chan chu khovel omdan tur han clear lok te mai chu lo thleng to oma lo la thleng le zel tur po kha ama khan angai to chhuana kha aro puil to kani chu in futuristic te chu khovele entinge nakina omang ti hi tupon kan ngai to le kan ngai nom kan ti zong ania. The year is 2889, the day 25th July, and the place is the office block of the managing editor of the Earth's Herald. Athon thu in chan na chu 2889 25th July ania ta chuanin managing editor Earth's Herald chu achanchen bumi ania ta chuanin ama kha journalist ani chanchen bumi ania aruma khanin the world's largest newspaper India ta chuanin office kha oma. In this futuristic story, written in 1889, the writer described how he visualized the world 1,000 years later. ti chuan hemi Astoria hianin kum nichina kan soyang khan kum sang ni somret par kum 2889 na khovel om dan tur tun azia atanga kum sang khat no khovel om dan tur kha aron soi fia don ani. The world of technology advancement where newspaper are not printed but spoken. Newspaper kha an zia ken chiar to don lo an ngai thla to don ani tuna chu kan nei der to mai. Read the following excerpt from the glimpse of this future world. Excerpt ati chu extract at le khabuzia tam tak ani ama se tlem te chau kha ron lak chwa kha kan soi don ani ti hian a in chana. That morning Francis Bennett woke in a rather bad temper. This was 8 days since his wife has been in France and he was feeling a bit lonely. Francis Bennett ta chang to pa chu ni mo journalist kan ti chu kha khanin aru jing kha tho fu lo ni chu jing khat chu achan chu anu pui kha niriat lai kha jin bo to friends rama khana zina chuan akhwati po har to ni chu. As soon as he spoke, Francis Bennett switched on his Fenner telephone, whose wire led to the house he owned in Champs-Élysées. Hemi a omna mun a in omna atang khanin an switch on a phone telephone atia hey tu na kan nei to a video call kan ti hin me a khoya po mila video call kan mang the in bet ringot lovin khang kha hun lai khana ummi alawa lo ngai to chuang fe kan chu. The telephone completed by telephone is another of a time conquest. Telephone nei thina ni a chu chu tu na chuan telephone ani chu chu hun kan control le ta atiani. Though the transmission of speech by electric current is already very old, transmission of speech ati chu news a tong impact chwana te kha alo hlui to a. It was only since yesterday that vision could only be mail in mu theina video call kan ti ang chu alanga an tong le an mail lan theina kha nimin lo kan lo mu chwa ko ve ati ni chu theipo to na kan bang der to a hun lai khan aw mangem ti ngai to thei ani lo so thilmak ani chan ngal der ani chu. A valuable discovery, and Francis Bennett was by no means the only one to bliss its inventor when, in spite of enormous distance between them, he saw his wife appear in a telephotic mirror. Francis, dear Francis, thil hulu tok mu chwa discovery kha inventor te kha na ron mu chwa ka tin eng anga hla po ni se af anupui kha asin na le ma se amu theya telephotic mirror chuan anu kha ron au chunga Francis aron tia. His name spoken by that sweet voice gave a happier turn to Francis Bennett's mood. Amud po chu lo fu vele deu ne chu anu omoi takina an biaklet kha chuan. He quickly jumped out of bed and went into his mechanized dressing room. Akhuma changin rang takin aron zong chwaka mechanized dressing room aron chua chumi omzia chu call mangin dressing room call in nor don ani chu tunai chan hi po hi AI kan mang to mun tam taka chuanin AI khan tian thingpui te po sem thei to hi khoi a moni chuan an mang to restaurant te po mishing in sim lovin chu ani na lo hu lok le pek chu mechanized dressing room ama in khak na tur kha. 2 minutes later, without needing the help of a valet, man servant mipa ina apui mipa ni wang khan mipa ina koran hak tir vela han boy pui vel ngai lo khanin machine khan ma lo la mai ni. The machine deposit him, wash, shave and shot, dress and button from top to toe. Machine khanin alo mai te lo phi fai saka lo buala amoi mul te khan lo zia sak vekatin pe khok te bun tira. Dress the button akor te po chu akil sak veka kor thak saka. On the threshold of his office, threshold to office hunga mai kan mundanga kalangai lo. The day work was going to begin. Ti chuan hun chu aron mangchan voini hun chu amangchan don ani chu. Francis Bennett went on to the reporter's room. Ka building akan reporter room avakala his 1500 reporters anei ni sangkhat zanga chanchin bumi ani a chanchin bu chwa tur chanchin bu kha mang to lo kan ti to kha tuna kan nei mek ang hi TV kan broadcast ang hi aro mulok to wang khan ani chuan sangkhat zanga na thok tu anei ni chu. Placed before an equal number of telephone and nevek boka were passing on the subscriber the news which had come in during the night from the four quarters of the earth. Khovel mun shang changin four quarters mun lia changin an thliara an omna kha an chanchin lak na kha thok tu mun lia an da khovel huap zo khan chung chang son report kha ron kal chur mun sang thil tleng kha. In addition to his telephone, each reporter has in front of him a series of telephone and nei ba ka khan commutators ati so operator an nei ngal buka, which allowed him to get into communication with this or that telephonic line. This one in biak po ton na kha thatakin an nei ni na thok tu te le alo pui tu te an lo ni buka ram sang khan an ron pe poka chanchin kha. Thus the subscriber have not only the story but the side of the event. Story so an share ni lo chanchin bu an share ngai to lova an bengin an mitin an muto tu na kan man lai me kan ti kha tin subscriber om zia chu man neya choi lo subscribe tu te amaka chum tam ta khala lu don te chu chiang renga. Francis Bennett questioned one of the 10 astronomical reporters ka khovel mun sang nei kan ti kha service which was going because of the recent discoveries in the stellar world. Stellar chu he changkang ta khovel mun thiam na manga an mu chwa khata chang khan in report kha masona na sa takhan lo nei to a an lo service te po kha chani. Well, Cash, what have you got? Cash inge kan nei entia phono telegrams from Mercury, Venus and Mars, sir. Planet dang te po kha mishing an chen tir to ni chu report te an lo dong zung thei to mai chu 1889 na changa kum sang khat nuwa kha chuanin khovel chau ni lo planet dang a khan mishing kha chen tir to ani. Interesting, in Jupiter atia Jupiter te nothing so far. We haven't been able to understand the signal of the Jovian made. Jupiter cheng te kha Jovian ania he kan la shelo and signals there ingim boine de khan ne perhaps ours haven't reached them. Kini hian kan signal hian han thleng lo monile atiani. Aren't you getting some result from the moon at any rate? Moon kha zot le moon lam hi not yet, Mr. Bennett. Moon lam kha nai ber si kha. Well, this time you can't blame optical science. Optical science hanti so hey again yang light property more science physics lampang interaction with matters kaka so science lampang ani agan so ithui wak lawanga optical science te can blame theodonomy. The moon is 600 times nearer than Mars and yet our correspondence service is in regular operation with Mars. Mars so alatte izoka 600 times more ain hlan zong kha I moon nen khan khove ta changin ain thlaute lul nen enga tinge atia ashe thiam lawa it can't be telescope we're needing kan telescope theilo atia ni no it's inhibitance. Corley replied. Corley chuanin nilo am mishing cheng ate zo kan ni antiani an optical science ka chu thaveka engkim signal po tha ma se am mishing zo ka kan po ni chu mishing zo mu na changin signal an pulo kha. How dare you tell me that the moon is uninhabited? Moon asan Michigan cheng lo iti mi atia. On the face it turns towards us at any rate, Mr. Bennett. Who knows whether on the other side? Helampang hi chu moon kan malam earth ne na kan in hoiton na te hi chu kan lam chun lo hoi renga ma se tunge mo sia le lampang ale lampang hi so lampang kan hu lo lampang a thil theng omon le tia. Well, there's a very simple method of finding out. Chung de chu kong overlom and that is antia to turn the moon around. Moon ka herila ni melom antia ni. On that very day, the scientists of the Bennett factory started working on some mechanical means of turning a satellite right around. Moon ka an turn theidon lawa ma se satellite turn dan ka an han ngai twa chuak le ngala an mechanics te khan chadon le mai. It's on signal ka khoi mun na changpon an muzung zung to mai don ani. On the whole, Francis Bennett has reason to be satisfied. Engponi say lungo ni turani ni Francis Bennett ai asan so a invention the discoveries anasalu tukani kami kum sang khat nuwa khachuan. One of the Earth's herald astronomers had just determined the element of the new planet Gandini. An astronomers pakhat khanin astronomers sukan sianga van thengreng zirtute pakhat khanin planet pakhat kha lo chhuak le achu chu aming chu Gandini ani. It is a distance of 12841,348,284,623 meters and 7 decimeters that the planet described its orbit around the sun in 572 years, 194 days, 12 hours, 43 minutes, 9.8 seconds. Francis Bennett was delighted with such precision. Khatyang ang chiang lutuk avir zong timing engkim ka a detail ka anan shia kha ro pui ri to ka ni chu tin as khovela tanga kha planet thar in a distance ateka chiang takin ate na zong zong an nei to a tin ni a avir zong avir zat zong zong an han chu chuak ngal vek boka thiam da kha lo sang to lo to ka ni chu changkang mo ma son na sa ta ka ni chu precision asoi na chu ani. Good, he exclaimed. Hurry up and tell the reportage service about it. You know what a passion the public has for these astronomical questions. I'm anxious for the news to appear in today's issue. It's on alom renga. Man mola rikan report khanin kan service te ka la public te hian bipui te hian astronomical question van theng ring chan chin hi shatan chak te ania ti khan ashira ki po ka phur to lu to kani voina newspaper khan lang ngal vat ro se atiani chu. The next room, the broad gallery about a quarter of a mile long, was devoted to publicity. In room dot le chuan gallery aw ma chu publicity ja chu mi puitana pek chhuat na turani a kha gallery ahuna kha azaw zong kha a quarter of a mile long ti chu 1 mile kha palia thenta ila ti chu 1 mile kha 0.62 kilometer ania nge ni zaw tak mai platform ang khan siama mi puitan an pichwa kani. And it well may be imagined that the publicity of such journal as the Earth Herald had to be. It brought a daily average of $3 million. Poisa pon hunhemani an gallery atang khan an journal ka mo an chanchin kha aro pui tu wangin khovel zong khanin an mani kha an lo thira an chanchin kha an du ve veka ti chuanin average daily average ni khata an poisa mu zatla pui chu engting en ang mak te duai zani somnga pani item ani to chu ni khatan income how sadon le mai. They are gigantic sign reflected on the clouds so large that they can be seen all over the whole country. TV kan tine han soi kopta ila TV kha ani chon in chuang kan nei ang ti kha ring lem lo ania van sanga gallery lian pui omanga chu ta chuan an han set up anga sign engeni a reflection kha don ani chu from that gallery 1,000 projector were unceasingly employed in sending to the clouds. It's on chuma te khan signal ka han thon chawanga on which they were reproduced in colors color moi tak aneyanga. These inordinate advertisement hi khovela po han he suman mona berani World Cup ati po hian rei lo teron lang hi an join me ma advertisement hi sumdon na atana tangkai tak ani media tan chuan khoya po hianin YouTube kan han en point advertisement local vat thina khang ho khan an joy tam ni chu tu na po hian advertisement en som na pakhatania an advertisement te po so unusually extravagant ati angani chu inordinate chu dangdai nalbi soina. At that moment, the clock struck 12. So the lights on that company, Aria, the director of the Earth's Herald left the hall and sat down in the rolling armchair. Rolling armchair, director Berto. In a few minutes, he had reached his dining room half a mile away at the far end of his office. Hemi an office ka seido na ni chumi to pa chuan avatlingle mana the table was laid and he took his place in it. Table om savika hun athut na huna thua within reach of his hand were placed a series of tabs and before him was a curved surface of phonotelephone. Ti chuan athut na chuan tab sei me chwa mei tur khan chi sang oma curved surface kan ti chu flat TV ni lo hetia akul dewa omka khatiang angkha ama khana oma. That's one on which appeared a dining room of his home in Paris. Paris and dining room Mr. and Mrs. Bennett had arranged to have lunch at the same time. It's one and noon and one in Chunzo a turin and in Torwal Tainito. Punchan de Apokan, a video call mangin to lighting in video call mankan, and it's on phono telephone atika. Kakashiringila, phono telephone to video call tinanimea. Nothing would be more pleasant than to be face to face in spite of the distance. Ladeva Oma say face to face in and trutheni and giman in hute and in biteboka katikan munla tika shadon mialo. To see one another and talk by means of the phonotelephonic apparatus. Eka equipment apparatus mankanin science tiam na mankan mishing in tudun angkanan umdonan itso. Like everybody else in his easy circumstances nowadays, Francis Bennett having abandoned domestic cooking. This one, Francis Bennett to bidang in anti chin again, tilka technology can all some na open salutuka, so hats home tolo. In one of the subscribers to the Society of Supplying Food to the Home, Society Paul Pakat Kanin ina so supply na anlo siama, which distribute dishes of 1,000 types through a network of pneumatic tubes. Pneumatic tubes kanin so sangkhat vel tlantur ka uma so anlo supply ka alonia. This system is expensive. Aman potowa, no doubt, but the cooking is better. And so siam ka tuizo kani. So, not without some regrets, Francis Bennett was lunching in solitude. Francis Bennett so amain so tuitakin ay may ni so rong bolpo ngay lawin. Hey so itel leila tunlaya so anin kan order thaya Zomato te po omatiana ron kal zungzunga kan dudu kan e thaya amma ero so himlo na ve so punchen kata chuan Zomato delivery boy te po khan lo swal pan thaya kha ina anwa pek don khan order reng tu pakhat kha tan khan himlo thaya tur mon lo da thaya ani lo pon ain chung kha avati boy thaya chuwang chuan mi shing azir te po lo nia nakina chuan an thlak ve thoma na. He was finishing his coffee when Mrs. Bennett, having got back home, appeared in the telephone screen. So a make like so anu po so aron hong ve a telephone screen at chuan aron lang ve nga ni ani bekal don ani. So when he had finished his lunch, so te izo chuan he went across the window where his aerocar was waiting. So te izo chuan aerocar in lo nga ka aerocar chu hei Star Wars te kan ina kan sheve ka nga movie a hianin van sang lama motor an tlan zung hi e kan hu photo a ataka kal tu mek ni hian share book ani. Where are we going, sir? Asked the aero coachman. Akal tu pa chan khu kan kal don atia. Let's see, I've got time. Hun kanaya, Francis Bennett replied. Take me to the accumulator works at Niagara. Accumulator so current han kol pithalam pangsiam na muna kanin Niagara min shwairo tiani. The aerocar shot across space at a speed of about 400 miles an hour. Darkar khata 400 miles tlanthe aerocar khanaya. Below him were spread out of towns with their moving pavement which carried the wayfarers along the street. Khatia van sang atholai le noi azuk en so moving pavement anti achu escalator kan nei ang hi konga kal kha kal ngai to lovin alo vir chur mai ni chu konga kal kha tikhan an ding to panga an kal na huna khan ha ngai to lo motor chuan fak po ngai don lo ni chu tikhan escalator ang khan akal pui mai don step ate step lo ate po moving pavement ati a chung te chuan in traveler te ke kal to lovin ni chena ka soi kha. And the countryside covered as though by the immense spiderweb, by the network of electric wires. Skan so yang khan spiderweb chu maimom ril zam ang mai khan kiltin kotin mai kha ke kal na tur kha khami moving pavement ang kha lo in zam tak cheu mai ni ke kal ngai to no ti khan vir chur mai ni chu electric wires khanin akoneka. Within half an hour, Francis Bennett had replaced his worked in Niagara, where after using the force of the cataract to produce energy, this one in Darkar Chanfin, who was on Francis Bennett at the Niagara too, after using the force of the cataract ati hi waterfall ani tui luang ka amang changkaya to produce energy, electric coal petha electric current lagna na pangani. He sold or hired it out to the consumer. Kaka ashal tani zu karen ka dona po he kan shefo wanga solar energy te kan mangchang kai to a mani man bak zu sorkar kan le to thina ni to laya chuan solar po in total kan omchan to a to chu to na hian kan soitel vele ni chu. Then he returned by way of Philadelphia, Boston and New York to Centropolis, where his aerocar put him down about 5 o'clock. A aerocar khan khotam takha an paltlanga darnga a khan in athleng vele ni chu. Akal chak boka tin athok chak kan ti zok ang chu. The waiting room of the Earth's Herald was crowded. Waiting room aneya a office ka a chanchen buming ka Earth's Herald ani ka takhanin anlo khatlui me ni. The careful lookout was being kept for Francis Bennett to return for the daily audience he gave to his petitioner chu an legal taka an thil rot natikha lo ngai thla kha ati turani chuan among their different proposals here to make a choice, reject the bad ones, look into doubtful ones, give a welcome to the good ones. Atha tlanga athalo te chu a reject nga no langa ama khan apum tu turani wang khan dan agin phalna pe theitu ani dona tin doubtful wati chu rin hlen om deuh te kha chu an en non le dona ni chu anna ina alo pwa dan ani. He soon get rid of those who had only got useless and impractical schemes. Kan soyang khan invention tam taka an omani sumi khan lo ngak teu meya mu chwa thar te pon neya scientist te pon om chewanyang chu khowela khan tu na pon om ring thawa a mu chwa thar le tu lem lo te kha chu an nol zunga. The few of others receive a better welcome. Achen chu alo welcome ani. The foremost among them was a young man whose broad bow indicate a high degree of intelligence. Mi pakhat welcome zinga mi pakhat chu chalhai chal ar thadeu mai fin mel deu mai mo fing le mi thiam intelligence a mel en reng khan khami kha chu an ngai sak deu bi ka. Sir, he began, chu pa chuan an awa, though a number of elements used to be estimated as 75, kaman ruwa man hi elements hi 75 vel kamanga, it has now been reduced to 3 pathuma kasiam toa, and as no doubt you are aware, ilo shat angin perfectly, Francis Bennett replied, well sir, I'm on the point of reducing 3 to 1 pathum elements pathum chu pakhata ka chantir le dona. If I don't run out of money, I'll have succeeded in 3 weeks. Poisa kala nei ni chuanin kar thum ka bambo ang siam zona aron tiani hei elements kan share dan dor chon man lai tv ka anhung pong thur mai ani a man ruwa kan mang nem ta ni tuna chuan pan te kut phatiat le kyanin tv po kan nei to a in phone te po mana chuanin wire mangin kanin bia akdon ta ila alian don tu boy pui tham tuna chuan kan pocketa phone te po pan thatakin kan neya to tiang chu elements a kan share thiam dan tor ni a thil har sadeu kha all sam te a khol kha lo thathial te ala all sam takin an siam chuak to te na anin bi ang na chu lo soi zelila inge a mu chwani he pa hian then sir, I shall really have discovered an absolute complete uitling felfai karon muti rangche atiani chu karon muchwak don ani antia, and the result of that discovery chu discovery chu muchwa chu engtin a result chu enge, it will be to make a creation of all forms of matter easy, stone, wood, metal, fibrin chu body repair na hi makleme creation, to make a creation thil aron siam chwa tur kha khangkha aron soi ni chu aman ro man kha. It's one, are you saying you're going to be able to construct a human being? Ishing siam swag don mo? Aron dia makati khop mai completely. The only thing missing will be the soul. Kharau cho anei lawang. Dia ni chu. Hey engting e Jules Van hen lo ngai to chwa thei ni. Tuna hian cloning kan chadei to. Cloning chu mishing no ti atang ron piang ni lovin. Mishing cell atangin mishing dang an siam thei to ti kan chianga. Ama sabira so 1996 akan doli berama anan tichana kha biram kha aselen la chwaka test tube engeni ama ling akhan an da puiting vek no te po nei thei danglam na omlo this on animals vela khan an siam nual to ta ni cloning kha ang chia masi mishinga hian an phal lo khovel hian aban ani ama ero chu movie te pokan mu fonga kha Arnold da pokan Arnold pali panga an lo siama kha cloning ania tin movie chen khat Will Smith channa Gemini man kan ti ati pokanin an lo kluna miswal pa khan puitling sa katiang kha asiam tu pa khan adu tuine control ani chu cloning kan ti chu ni alo ngai to chwak dei to mai makle mai. Francis Bennett assigned the young fellow to the scientific editorial departments of his journal. Ditwa hepa fing ati mai he Francis Bennett chuan in scientific editorial department akhanin a newspaper chuang hal turin an kaltir ngal ni chu. The second invention, adotle invention asiam chu, using as a basis some old experiment that dated from the 19th century, had an idea of moving whole city into single block. Khopui shang ron hu chwale chu experiment akhan khopui shang pozim atiani he suggested as a demonstration an entir vela the town of Saif, situated 15 miles from the sea. town of Saif to Kalai Kopuika, Luika Machanga Latak May Ania, after conveying it on rails down to the shore, he would transform it into a seaside resort. Don't kalna kong rails kasiam don ito. In Kalpona at Sakton rail of the minute nga, minute 2 minute niyan, tlang sung don. Tuna po kong chaa, mana, Zandria kan kalna angka, Zandria kalangay tolo. Kan ti sung to may tona telo to boka, Delhi te di kata kan tlinga, Kalkata te po kan tling. Ituan kopui ka apot kom don ti na nilovin, akal kong ka. Alo, si ano siyam chatsuan, ayin pot ngay don ti na ang anito kong at chadon. Tin hey sum don hun pakati asoitel ania seaside resort kan ti chu tourist day holiday mi manna sports te poni na nita mi ko khom na mi sang ina thil anti na muntur an enjoy na muntur khatiang khan siam don ani chu Francis Bennett, attracted by this project, agreed to take half share of it chu an sum don chu half share a hlok na chan ve nei don ani chan chu sum don mun kha chu sum tam don mi puin kal khom nga hun man na tor Disneyland kan ti ang chi te po hi ani don ani chu. The proposal heard and dealt with, Francis Bennett went to stretch himself out in the easy chair in the audition room. Proposal proposal chu rotna mi shang in aron mu chwate an ngai thak nuwa chuan an chol hadama chera te chuan I audition room a khan Ari cho sha theina akhan. Then pressing a button, he was put on a communication with a central concert. Central concert in thein again in biak po to na china kan soika phone telephone mangkan concert te po chu alo in theya lo ngai thei boka. After so busy a day, nile in a boy, viau maya what a charm he found in the works of our greatest master. Based on the series of delicious harmonica algebraic formulae. Nilengin boy ma se khang concert te an clear an in theka ro puyetia harmonica algebraic formula so maths a plus b whole thing square manga he thiam na anon mu chwa hi asoina ani. During his meal phone telephotic communication had been set up with the Paris anupui omna kan sha Paris kanen khan an thlunzom le a dinner ani chung khan anin be pop le ani chon ei dun le ani. When do you expect to get back to Centropolis, dear Edith? Asked Francis Bennett. John Edith ka an bia intige ilo let dona Centropolis atia. I'm going to start this moment. Dona han karon let don by tube or by aeroplane. By tube or by aerotrain. Do tlantur khan nei ni. By tube atia tube khan la chak le don. Then you'll be here. Intige no tlenang at 11:59 this evening. When like karon tlenga lang 11:59 at there mai Paris time? No. Centropolis time. Goodbye then. And above all, don't miss the tube. It's one in mangcha tube chu ngeni tube chu ngeni yang pipe ang dewa hianin mase pipe pa so ni don mi alawa an ding don nge khata khan transport an nei don tina ne churang takin an thleng zung don tin time asoi hi eng time nge tan du thlan tor oma kan sha dan tor chuan time hi ain anglo ni ke ni chuan Indian Standard Time IST kan manga kan sana hi sapram vazin puita ila alo in mil don mi alo khovela hen time zone som ni pali a oma Indian achen chudar kar khatina in thawa ni chwa na le atlak na te a in anglo tani heta Japan ani chwa chuan yan khovel kha avira ni chwa nu midanga chwa veram danga tikhan kan ni chwa hun khain anglo veka chuwang chon kan time zone te khain anglo longitude in an te a hian a thur zong hian so ta chuan in Indian US chuan in 9 time zone pakwa te ne ya Russian song pakhat France in nga bira 12 time zone ane ne India chu kan van nei kan soyang khan pakhat chau kan ne ya tin sana te po chang kang tak tak kan hu hi ti hian sana abial te ro te pathum pali te oma he time zone sang te na khan ya a chen sana chu kwal thum te oma kha time zone in natur sana bi kania awan changkang kan ti ringot khanin kan mamo kherlo wa ke ni chang kan ramatan time kan jin chwa don chuan khatiang time zone nei sana kha I kan nei venga ya ani lo zon kan sana kan adjust angai ni darkar khatin kan tlai te nga ya darkar chan veten an timing nin khan kan mil zel khangai don tina ni chu chu kan shat fianan kan soi interesting kop me. The submarine tubes by which one travels from Paris in 295 minutes are certainly much preferable to aerotrain. Submarine tubes at the he Paris han kaldan chuanin du than omzok ani aerotrain ain aerotrain pokat sakkan ti viau toni just tube khan la du zok which only manage 600 miles an hour darkar khata 600 miles atlante chak fwa don khop mai chu ti ni chuan nakina chuan Delhi ate po school kan la kalanga hetiang hi lo thlen chuan kan na thok te po kha Delhi ate voin chu khongai kal Delhi ka bazar don ti zung thei don tlai kan hole ngal dona tikhanin kan bazar nga tlai po ni phalo darkar chan velik lekha a distance kha to dona tin school te po kha mani vega mani khwa mani state a kal kherangai to don rawa mun sanga state danga kan kal zung don ani mani in the tang khan tiffin po kan pai thlap thei don tina ni chu I imagine dan chuan iring ve Francis Bennett, very tired after so very full a day, decided to take a bath before going to bed. This one, to aviang maya in Boal atuma. There was always a bath already in the office. In Boal turka ready ring office akan. He touched the button and mit maya. The rumbling sound began. Aron Lian Zela got louder, increased. Then one of his door opened and the bath appeared, gliding along its rail. This one Aron langa zoi khan bathroom lama khan atot lut mai ni chu hei po hi kan soyan khan AI in ati thei to a munchang shangan chop chang to ni kawang chuan a interesting a futuristic ki nangpon han imagine vela zona a khan eng angin nge khovel tu na changa kum som pakhat po ni me thei som nga te po ni theya zona kha inei theya khata khan khovel om dan tur irin akha zona kha itong ve theya tin hei lo chiar non lela ama ain isha chiang dona tin ngai no mi ti don bokani thank you